Let me be your leader.
Today we're making cheese. This one's for you, snarky guy. So I recently got into yogurt making, courtesy of another YouTuber, Visions. Said it was so easy to make homemade yogurt. It's also very easy to make simple cheese at home. What you do is you heat up your dairy product, then you add an acid, and then you let it curdle, and then you strain it. And then just the variations in the fat content of your dairy, how much you strain it, or if you press it, or if you add herbs, blah, blah, blah. That means you've made queso fresco or paneer. Apparently people make cheese like this all over the world in every culture. Today I'm making mascarpone. I have an excess of pears that there's a recipe that we gotta eat the pears, and I'm gonna eat them with something sweet. So I'm using heavy cream, and we're gonna heat it up. The thing with milk products, when you boil water, you can put it in the pan and walk away, that's fine. But milk, because of its structure, overboils if you don't keep an eye on it, so we actually have to keep an eye on it. If I wasn't doing this for the camera, I would probably throw it in the slow cooker for 3 hours, because it won't, I know that it won't overboil there. But we wanted some action while I make this, the world's cheese. If you want to make more complicated cheeses, you do have to start adding live cultures, other things which I don't have access to. Because the one place in the world where they don't really have a cheese is China, where I live. That's not even true. When we lived in Yunnan province, they made a cheese there, probably in this method. It was a very simple farmer's cheese. The milk might have been from a yak, I don't know. I've been into recently making stuff. And let me say here, unequivocally, I love Chinese food, and we eat so well. And Sichuan food is so good, and Luzhou food is so good. But we're not, the limited cooking skills I have are definitely not cook a perfect Sichuan meal. That's go out and have someone who's good at that do that for you. So I've been into making stuff that we can't really get at the supermarket or at Taobao. Or sometimes we can get it on Taobao, but for various reasons I want to see if I can make it. So these dairy products have been kind of the thing, because I like dairy. But it's only become possible, I guess we've always had milk, but Luzhou locally, I have this French whipping cream. That's something that's brand new. Cream started to appear in the grocery stores during the pandemic, I think, because I remember hoarding some whipping cream, thinking we'd need a nice dessert. And when I say during the pandemic, I mean February 2020. That's when that happened to us. But it's made me think a lot about like food around the world, because I do agree it's weird to move to a place and then only eat stuff from the place that you left. Part of becoming a world traveler is you have stuff you miss from all over the world. So what's a girl to do? What's a cheese-loving girl to do? And some stuff is just not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to make a perfect New York City bagel because we just don't have the water for it. But my friend can bring me one from Chengdu that's pretty okay for a Chinese bagel. I had a friend when I did study abroad in Spain. He was an Irishman who worked at an Irish bar, and he said around the world you'll find two things everywhere: Irish bars and Chinese food. And so far in my experience, he's right. There's not an Irish bar in Luzhou yet, but there is one in Chengdu. At least one. And of course, when you have culture traveling all over the world, it gets changed. It gets changed by where people land. Sometimes not always for the better. If you look up St. Louis style pizza, the roots of food and how they travel, like there's a theory Dumplings made their way from China to Italy and became ravioli, or the other way around. Kind of depends on who you're asking. And that's part of the richness of experience of the world. On the other hand, you don't want to get too into cultural hegemony. I remember when like Coca-Cola or McDonald's came to the former Soviet Union, and that was a huge deal, and the people felt different ways about that. I mean, McDonald's is not our proudest cultural export. You can be a little too forceful, insisting that your culture is the right one. I guess that's what it is. If you bring a pizza and say, hey, do you want some of this pizza? I mean, yes, I do. But if you bring a pizza and you say, hey, all you should eat from now on is pizza because it's the best one. Don't do that. Look at that beautiful simmer. So that means the cream is hot enough. We're gonna add our acid, which is lemon juice, and we just pour it right in. And for this particular recipe, you leave it on the heat. Some you take it off. I'm not being super specific because this kind of cheese making is not specific. That's why I do it. I do love cheese. Oh, we gotta see what time it is. Okay, so 13 minutes from now, about 2:40. I do love cheese, and I will do a certain amount of work to make cheese. But I also love, other stuff. Domestic labor is labor. So there are more complicated cheeses that I'm not going to get into because I just don't have the time. I've always loved baking because I like following directions, and I like being precise and having something you know how it should come out, and then it comes out that way. And for the opposite reason, I'm not so into cooking, which seems a little more free form and experimental. But so these little science experiments, these milk experiments, making yogurt, making cheese, are kind of fun. I like that it's a simple mechanism that you can kind of play with. I don't know how this will come out. It looks right so far. It smells like hot cream. That's what I'm supposed to have. It's not really curdling yet, but I guess that's why you leave it on. I might not have put enough acid in, but it's also only been 2 minutes, so we'll see. I guess that's what life is. You keep repeating the processes you know and refining them until you get good at life. And then you can die. So it's been simmering for a bit, and we're ready to take it off the heat. So I need my fancy mitts. Mascarpone cheese doesn't curdle, so I was waiting for that to happen, and it does not. Sometimes you make mistakes. But you do put it in an ice pack because it's fancy dessert cheese, so it has a fancy extra step. Which means we probably won't be making this recipe again. I like the set it and forget it. That's my theory of life. Rage against the dying of the light. Our ice bath is all done, so it's up to the last step, which is straining it. It's a shame. I should have read the recipe more carefully before attempting on video a new cheese. It doesn't curdle, so it doesn't really look like anything. But that just means you have to do it at home to see what curdling looks like. And then think about that Miss Muffet eating her curds and whey is actually something. But we are gonna strain the cheese overnight. You're supposed to use cheesecloth, which I do not have, and I could not even find on Taobao. Amazing. So what I use is a steamer liner, because it has the same functionality of holes. I don't know. Let me get my rubber scraper, which is my second favorite kitchen tool. It's my example of the ingenuity of being in a different culture and being adaptive. The steamer liner, not the rubber scraper. That's no special nothing. I doubt Emily's take on Italian dessert cheese is going to storm the city. anytime soon, or really anything from this kitchen. My bread's pretty decent, but it's not even my recipe. But I do feel like I'm participating in cultural history by making my own cheese. The whey should drip out for 24 hours, and then we'll have something to put on our dessert. The good things about these simple recipes is they're kind of idiot-proof, I think. As I found with the yogurt, I just kind of like throw it in there, heat it up, blah, blah, blah. And however it comes out, it's good, even if I don't get it consistent every time. So that's what I like about these farmers' recipes. It's heavy cream. It'll be good. Okay, I'm gonna stick it in the fridge. This is a disaster. This is going to be the disaster. I'm going to spill all the cream. Goodbye, pomegranates. That's really good. I think yesterday when I finished the work, I was like, I could have just the same whipped up the whipped cream in the blender and then have whipped cream if it's all the same, but it is not all the same. The mascarpone miraculously set. It's a miracle of science, and it's just like creamy and thick and 𝗣𝘂𝗸𝗶 but it has like a little bit of fermenty bite that whipped cream would not have had. So I don't know that I'd make this a lot, but it is worth it if we're feeling cheesy. So that's how you make cheese.